You ever take your kid out for a quick dinner just to reset your head, and suddenly he's waving over a stranger like it's some kind of family reunion? Jason had $5 left after rent, a half hour before his night shift, and one goal: feed Leo quietly and get home before the leftovers went bad. But halfway through a chicken sandwich, Leo stood up and shouted across the food court, "Hey, you can sit with us. Quick question, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. And hey, if this story makes you clench your jaw, smile, or whisper, no way, that's Jason Statham. Hit that subscribe button. Watch till the end, because what happens next might change how you look at quiet people forever." Jason grabbed Leo's arm. "We don't invite strangers to dinner." Leo didn't flinch. He looked lonely. Jason turned, and the man was already walking over. Calm, steady, empty plate in one hand and something unreadable in his eyes. Jason didn't expect the man to actually sit down. Most people wave off awkward invitations from 7-year-olds. But this one didn't. He walked across the food court like he belonged there, like the noise, the cheap lighting, and the scattered fries on the table didn't bother him one bit. Jason stood as he approached, shoulders squared, jaw tight. The man didn't flinch, just nodded. "I can sit somewhere else." Jason glanced down at Leo, who was already moving his tray to make room. The kid was grinning like he'd just fixed world peace. Jason exhaled. "Suit yourself." The man sat, quiet, neat, mid-40s maybe, black shirt, sleeves rolled. Hands clean but a little rough, like someone who'd built something once and never talked about it again. He had nothing but a small plate of fries and a plain drink. No phone, no bag, no real expression. Leo leaned forward. "What's your name?" "Dean," the man said. Jason stayed standing for a beat longer, then sat across from him. "Jason," Dean nodded. "Thanks for the seat." "I didn't offer." Leo laughed. Dean smiled at that, just slightly. Jason took a bite of his sandwich and tried to act like this wasn't happening. For a few minutes, nobody spoke. The food court buzzed around them. Leo ate happily. Dean ate slowly. Jason didn't eat at all. "You local?" Jason asked finally, passing through. "Work." Dean looked up. "Not lately." Jason let that hang in the air. He didn't like vague answers, not with Leo at the table, not with strangers. Leo wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. "You look sad. That's why I invited you." Dean blinked. "Did I?" "You were staring at your tray like it did something wrong." Jason cleared his throat. "Leo, don't be rude." "It's not rude," Leo said. "It's true." Dean looked at Jason. "He's observant." "He's 7. Smart 7. Jason nodded once. He didn't smile. Leo kicked his shoes off under the table and said, "You have kids." Dean didn't answer right away. "I did." Jason looked at him closely. "What does that mean?" Dean shifted slightly in his seat. "It means I don't anymore." Leo froze mid-bite. Jason placed a hand on his shoulder. "Eat." Dean looked down at his tray. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." "It's fine," Jason said. "He'll forget it in 5 minutes." "I won't," Leo said quietly. Dean looked at him and gave the smallest nod. A few beats passed. Then Leo asked, "Wanna come home with us?" Jason nearly dropped his drink. "Leo, for dinner," he said quickly. "We've got leftover spaghetti." Jason turned to Dean, eyes sharp. "We're not inviting anyone home." Dean raised his hands. "Wasn't planning on it." But Leo wouldn't let it go. "It's not weird. Dad invites people sometimes." "I don't." Leo looked at Jason. "You said being kind is free." Jason pressed his fingers to his temple. "That's not okay. This conversation's over." Dean stood. "I'll get going." "No one asked you to stay," Jason muttered. Dean turned to Leo. "Thanks for the seat." Leo gave him a 2-finger salute. "Anytime." Dean nodded at Jason. "You've got a good kid." Jason watched him walk off, silent. They finished the meal in a weird kind of quiet. Later, while brushing his teeth, Leo said, "He didn't seem dangerous." Jason leaned in the doorway. "It's not about danger, it's about being careful." "Can we see him again?" "I don't think that's up to us." Leo spat into the sink. "If he's lonely, we should help." Jason sighed. "You don't have to fix people, Leo." Leo looked at him in the mirror. "Why not?" Jason didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, they went to the library. Leo liked the comics section. Jason liked the quiet. He was flipping through a used copy of something forgettable when he saw Dean. Same shirt, same quiet. Reading a newspaper in a chair near the window, Jason almost walked away, but Dean looked up, caught his eye, and gave a nod. Jason walked over. Small city, Jason said. Dean smiled. Or same instincts. You following us? No, Dean said calmly. But I think your son's right. About what? About kindness. Jason tilted his head. You got something going on I should know about. Dean folded the newspaper. I had a daughter. She died. I don't sleep much. That's it. Jason stared at him. Dean added, you don't have to believe me. I don't. Fair. Jason looked back toward the comics section. Leo was sitting on the floor, flipping pages, completely at peace. Dean said, you look like someone who doesn't ask for help. That's 'cause I don't. Even when you need it. Jason didn't answer. Dean stood, tucked the newspaper under his arm. I'll get out of your way. Jason grabbed his arm. Wait. Dean looked down at the grip. Jason let go. We're having spaghetti tonight. Dean blinked. That an invitation? It's leftovers. Dean gave the faintest smile. I can bring bread. Jason exhaled. Don't be early. That night they ate at a small kitchen table with mismatched chairs. Leo talked the entire time. Jason watched every move Dean made. Dean didn't say much, but he laughed when Leo told a joke, not politely, but honestly. After dinner, Leo fell asleep on the couch watching a movie. Jason poured 2 glasses of water and handed one to Dean. You said you had a daughter. Dean nodded. 5 years ago, drunk driver. Jason sat. I'm sorry. Me too. They sat in silence for a while. Jason finally asked, what do you do? For work, I mean. Used to do security. Jason raised an eyebrow. Military. Dean nodded once. Then private work. Jason sipped his water. You still do any of that? Dean stared at the sleeping kid. Not anymore. Jason leaned back. What changed? I realized I'm not good at protecting the wrong people. Jason thought about that, then said, Leo liked you. I liked him back. Don't make that a problem. Dean looked him in the eye. I won't. Jason nodded. You want to stop by again, fine, but I don't do surprises. And I don't do chaos. Dean smiled. Neither do I. Jason stood. Then we'll see what happens. He walked Dean to the door. Outside, the street was quiet, empty. But Jason's gut twisted. He looked across the street and saw a car idling with its lights off. Dean followed his gaze. Then said, You expecting company? Jason shook his head. No. Dean stepped off the porch and walked toward the car, slow, confident, casual. The car pulled away before he got close. Jason watched the taillights vanish into the dark. Dean turned back. Might want to keep your curtains closed for a bit. Jason stared at him. You know something I don't. Dean didn't answer, just said, see you soon. Then he was gone. Jason locked the door, double-checked the windows, and sat by Leo's bed until he fell asleep too, not because of fear, but because of something worse, uncertainty. Jason didn't see Dean for 3 days, but the car came back, same model. Same slow crawl past the window around 9:30 p.m. No headlights, no plates he could read from the kitchen. Jason didn't tell Leo, just kept a bat near the door and started double-checking the locks before bed. On the 4th night, Dean knocked. Jason opened the door without a word. Dean stood there in the same black shirt, eyes calm, hands empty. Just checking if you've seen it too. Jason stepped outside, closed the door behind him. It's been here twice. Dean nodded. I've seen it 4 times, same guy, never gets out. Jason crossed his arms. You think it's for me? I think it's not random. Jason leaned forward. You bring something to my door. Dean didn't blink. I bring peace, but peace doesn't mean I'm not followed. Jason let that sit. Then said, what kind of people follow you? Dean looked at the street. The kind that don't like loose ends. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. You're saying I'm a loose end now? Dean looked him in the eye. No. I'm saying I'm trying to keep you from becoming one. Jason let out a breath and glanced back at the window. He could see Leo's head bobbing behind the curtains. You want to tell me what this is about? Dean hesitated. It's not about now. It's about something from before. Something I stepped away from. You were military, Dean nodded. Then private protection, high-stakes clients, corporate, government, occasionally worse. And, and one of them still thinks I know something that I shouldn't. Jason didn't like how calmly he said that. Dean added, I've been off-grid for a while. I don't use cards, I don't keep a real phone, but I made a mistake stopping here more than once. Jason exhaled. You said you were passing through. I was. Jason stepped closer. Then why'd you come back? Dean didn't answer at first. Because your kid reminded me what home used to feel like. Jason didn't like that answer either. It was too honest. He opened the door. Get in. Dean followed him inside. Jason locked the door behind them, then sat at the kitchen table and poured 2 glasses of water. You planning on fixing this? Dean nodded. Yes. When? Dean sipped. Soon. Jason stared at him. You've got 2 days. Then what? Then I make it my problem. Dean didn't argue. Leo came into the kitchen rubbing his eyes. He back, Jason nodded. Yeah. Leo climbed into his lap. You staying for breakfast tomorrow? Dean looked at Jason. Jason didn't respond. Leo smiled anyway. You can have my cereal if you want. Dean smiled softly. I'd like that. The next day passed quiet, but the car didn't come that night. Jason didn't know if that was better or worse. The following morning, Dean showed up with a bag of groceries and a flip phone. Jason raised an eyebrow. What's that? Dean handed it over. Burner, keep it charged. If I don't come back, someone will call it. Jason frowned. That's supposed to make me feel better. Dean didn't reply. They ate eggs and toast like it was any other Saturday. Leo showed Dean his comic book drawings. Dean gave small feedback without patronizing him. Jason stood in the doorway the entire time, arms crossed. Before noon, Dean stood to leave. I'll be gone a few hours. Jason asked, you walking into something dangerous? Dean paused. Hopefully not, but possibly. Yeah, Jason rubbed his jaw. Should I be worried? Dean looked at him. You already are. Then he left. Hours passed. Leo napped. Jason paced. The phone never rang, but at 6:00 p.m. The knock came again. Jason opened the door expecting Dean. It wasn't him. 2 men in suits, identical posture, no smiles. One flashed a badge that looked almost real. We're looking for Dean Mercer. Jason kept his hand on the inside knob. No idea who that is. The man's tone didn't change. We believe he's been in contact with you. That contact puts your son at risk. Jason's jaw tightened. You want to explain that? We need to know where he is. Jason shook his head. Not my job. The second man spoke up. We can get a warrant. Jason leaned forward. Then come back with one. Until then, you're not speaking to me or my son. The first man nodded once. We'll be in touch. They turned and walked down the steps like they already had everything they needed. Jason closed the door, bolted it. Leo stood behind him. Who were they? Wrong address. Jason handed him the cereal bowl. Eat. Leo didn't ask more questions, but Jason could tell he knew. 2 more hours passed, still no Dean. At 9:03 the phone rang. Jason answered fast, a pause. Then Dean's voice. Don't let them in. They already came. Did you tell them anything? No, Dean exhaled. Good, they're not cops. They work for the people I ran from. Jason walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind him. Why now? They got sloppy. I hit a pressure point. You coming back? Yes. When? I'm outside. Jason peeked through the blinds. Dean stood on the sidewalk. Same calm, same shirt. Blood on his right hand. Jason opened the door and pulled him inside. Dean winced as he passed. You okay? Not really. Jason pointed. Bathroom, sit down. Dean moved slow. Jason grabbed the first aid kit and started patching up the cut. Dean didn't complain, didn't wince, just watched him. Jason asked, how bad is it? Dean said, containable. Jason nodded. But not over. No. Jason taped the last bandage and stood. You brought this to my house. Dean looked at him. I'm going to end it, tonight. Jason crossed his arms. How? Dean stood slowly. The same way I walked into it, quietly. Jason held up the burner phone. You use this to call for help, Dean shook his head. You use it if I'm not back by morning. Jason looked him over one last time, then opened the door. Go end it, Dean nodded. Thank you. Jason closed the door. This time he didn't sit by the window, he sat by Leo's bed again, but he didn't fall asleep, because something told him Dean wouldn't be back by morning. Jason didn't sleep. He tried. He lay on the couch, eyes closed, blanket half tangled around his legs. But his ears were trained on the night, the creak of the fridge, the pop of the baseboards, the distant hum of a car passing too slow outside. His phone sat on the table like a promise or a threat. Every time it buzzed, his heart jumped, but it didn't buzz much. Leo slept deep and safe in the next room. That was all Jason cared about. That, and the fact that a man who'd once sat across from him eating fries like he didn't have a past was now out there, bleeding, hunted, and apparently handling a problem so dark it couldn't be named out loud. The clock hit 4:17 a.m. when the knock came. Jason didn't move at first. Just sat up slowly, reached under the couch cushion and pulled out the bat. He checked the peephole. Dean, Jason opened the door, fast but quiet. Dean stepped in, shoulders slumped, eyes red. No visible blood this time, but he looked like he hadn't sat down in days. Jason locked the door behind him. Is it done? Dean nodded once. They won't come back. Jason studied his face. You sure? Dean looked at him. They knew better than to kill me. Now they know what happens if they try. Jason exhaled, then handed him a towel. Bathroom, clean up. You're scaring the kid and he's not even awake yet. Dean walked without a word. By the time Leo woke up, the sun was out and Dean was sitting at the table like nothing had happened, wearing a clean shirt, drinking black coffee. Jason didn't say anything, just served breakfast and kept checking the window. Leo dug into his cereal like he hadn't felt the weight in the room. You're back, Dean nodded. Did you save me some cereal? Leo pushed the box across the table. All yours. Jason sat with them, ate quietly. Watched, Dean finally said, I should go. Jason didn't argue, but Leo looked up, milk on his chin. Why? Dean forced a smile. I brought something with me I shouldn't have. Your dad was right to be careful. Leo shook his head. But you helped. Dean nodded. And now it's time for me to leave. Leo didn't say anything else, just looked down and chewed slowly. After breakfast, Dean stood by the door. Jason walked him out, stood with him on the porch. You sure it's over? Dean nodded. They won't risk coming back. And if they do? Dean reached into his coat and handed Jason something small, a USB drive. What's this? Insurance, names, documents, records. If I disappear again or worse, you send that to the press. Jason held it tight. Why me? Because I trust you. Jason gave a slow nod. You shouldn't. Dean smiled faintly. That's why it works. They stood in silence for a few seconds. Then Jason asked, You're really leaving? I have to. Jason exhaled. You need a ride? Dean smirked. No, I'll disappear the way I came in. They didn't shake hands. They didn't hug. Dean just walked off down the street, turning the corner without looking back. Jason stood there a long time after. 2 days passed. No sign of the car, no knock, no Dean. Leo didn't ask much. He just kept drawing, kept going to school, kept checking the window at night. Jason held on to the USB, locked it in a small fireproof box in the back of the closet, told no one, not even Leo. A week went by. Then on a Thursday, Jason got a package, no return address, no postage, just sitting on the front step. Inside, a small box of cereal, a black shirt, and a note. Thanks for the seat. Leo found it, brought it in, asked, Is he okay? Jason nodded. Yeah. Leo smiled and went back to his coloring. That weekend, Jason got a call from an unknown number. He answered on instinct. Jason Shaw, speaking. This is Emily Kaur. I work with families recovering from trauma through the state. Your name was passed to us. Jason sat up straighter. Why? I believe someone submitted your name for a stability grant, housing support, private school application for Leo Shaw. Jason blinked. That wasn't me. Well, someone did, and it was approved. Jason stood. What's the catch? No catch, just a few forms and a request to remain anonymous. Jason paused. Can I ask who? No, sir, you can't, but I think you already know. Jason ended the call slowly. That night, he sat at the kitchen table while Leo slept and looked out the window. He didn't expect Dean to walk back through it, but he felt him everywhere, in the silence, in the absence of danger, in the way Leo had started smiling a little more like a kid again. Jason stood, walked to the closet, and took the USB drive out of the box. He stared at it for a long time. Then he slid it into the drawer beside the cereal box, just in case. The next morning, Leo tugged at Jason's sleeve. Can we go back to the place we met him? Jason looked down. Why? I want to sit at the same table. Jason smiled. Yeah, okay. They drove across town, ordered the same food, sat in the same seats. Leo kept glancing at the door. He didn't say it out loud, but Jason knew what he was hoping. Jason didn't stop him. You never know who might walk over when a kid offers you a seat. The third letter came on a Sunday. Jason almost missed it. It had slipped under the door sometime in the night, tucked in a plain white envelope. No stamp, no return name. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded once. Typed, no signature. Don't trust the woman who asks about the USB. Jason stared at the words for a full minute before putting the note back inside the envelope and locking it in the same fireproof box as the USB. He didn't tell Leo. Later that afternoon, a woman came to the door. Not the same one from the phone call. This one wore a charcoal blazer, soft voice, calm eyes. She introduced herself as Mara, said she was with a private educational grant board, wanted to follow up on some paperwork. Nothing urgent, just verification. Jason stood in the doorway with one hand on the knob. He didn't invite her in. What's your last name? He asked. She smiled. Just Mara's fine. Jason shook his head. Not here, it's not. She held her ground. I just need a moment. Jason glanced at her shoes. Clean, too clean. She hadn't walked far. No, you don't, he said. Good day. He closed the door and watched from the window as she walked down the street, got into the back seat of a black sedan, and was driven away without looking back. He double-locked the door. That night, he opened the USB just once. The files were encrypted, but a folder inside wasn't. It held photos. Dozens of them. Some looked like surveillance. Some looked like family. Most were time-stamped years ago, dates that meant nothing to Jason, but he memorized them anyway. The final file was a video, unplayable on his laptop. Corrupted, maybe, or protected. Jason shut the computer, heart pacing. Someone knew he had it, and someone else didn't want him to. He didn't sleep that night. He moved the box from the closet to the storage bin in the car trunk, then back again. Then into a small cooler buried under tools in the garage. Nothing felt safe anymore, not even inside his own home. The next morning, Leo asked, "Are you okay?" Jason forced a smile. "Yeah, why? You look like you're waiting for something bad." Jason crouched next to him. "I'm just tired." Leo nodded, like he didn't believe it but didn't want to push. After school, Jason drove the long way home, circled blocks, watched mirrors. At one point, a gray SUV tailed him through 2 turns. It didn't follow him past the light, but he didn't relax until they were inside and the blinds were down. That night, a second knock came, same time, same pattern. Jason opened the door slowly, Dean thinner, dirtier, alive. Jason stared. "You look like hell," Dean nodded. "I've seen worse." Jason stepped aside. Dean came in. Leo ran in from the hallway. "You're back," Dean caught him in one arm. "Still standing, huh?" Leo smiled wide. "We still have cereal." Dean laughed once. "Good to know." Jason poured water, sat across from him. "I got a letter." Dean leaned forward. "From who?" "No signature. Just said not to trust the woman asking about the USB." Dean's jaw tightened. "They found you," Jason nodded. "She came by yesterday." Dean cursed under his breath. Jason stared at him. "You said it was over." "I thought it was." Jason stood. "That's not good enough." Dean looked at Leo, then back at Jason. "I'm going to fix it." Jason pointed. "I'm not letting this get near him again." "It won't." Jason stepped closer. You came here again. They'll follow you. Dean reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. A different one. This has everything. Real names, accounts, the video. Jason didn't take it. Dean held it out. If I don't come back in 24 hours, you send this. Use the numbers I left you. Jason stared at the drive, then took it. Leo peeked from the doorway. You leaving again? Dean walked over, crouched to eye level. Yeah, but not for long, Leo nodded. Promise? Dean hesitated. Yeah, he stood, looked at Jason. Give me 1 day, Jason nodded. After that, it's war. Dean smiled faintly. Wouldn't expect anything less. Then he was gone again. Jason stayed up that night, watching. Morning came with no calls. Afternoon passed. At 8:13 p.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Dean's voice. I'm done. Jason stood. You okay? Better than okay. Then silence. Jason frowned. Dean. But the line was already dead. 5 minutes later, headlights swept across the living room. Jason moved to the window. Dean stepped out of a black car, opened the back door, helped someone out, a woman, mid-40s, shaking, eyes full of something Jason couldn't name. He opened the front door before they knocked. Dean nodded at him. This is Kara. Jason looked at her. She looked back like she'd heard of him before. Dean said she was the one they were keeping quiet. Kara stepped forward. I have a daughter. They used her to control me. Dean got her out first. Jason glanced at the street. You bringing this here again? Dean shook his head. No, just passing through. Jason looked at Kara, then at Dean. You done disappearing? Dean nodded. I think so. Leo ran to the door. You're staying? Dean looked at Jason. Jason gave a slow nod. For dinner. Leo beamed. We still have spaghetti. Kara laughed softly. Dean stepped inside. The door closed behind them. For the first time in weeks, Jason didn't lock it right away.